many fans here in this shit.
Hello, fellow disc golf enthusiasts, and welcome back to coverage of the 2023 PCS Open. As you see there, this beautiful Viking-themed course set at Øverås Diskgolfpark is an incredible venue at a stunning location. This is Round 2 Front 9 MPO lead card coverage brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Luukkonen.
What's up, Connor? Wonderful to be here once again. One of the most exciting events of the year and by far the highest level event in Europe this year. Taking a look at the players here. Hjalmar Fredriksson. Amazing young talent from Sweden. He actually just recently turned 16 years old. So he's got many years left in the tank.
Joining him, Joey Temali. He is a producer, cameraman, fantastic disc golfer, succeeding on all fronts. He will be joining us here today on this chase card.
Next up we got Garrett, Gurthie, one of the longer throwers on tour, both in the Europe and in the US. Not a lot of long throws on this course, but I'm sure on some of these more open holes we will see big bombs from him.
Rounding out our feature card, you know him, you love him, Paul Ulibarri, doing great things with his Leadership Foundation Institute, and all around an amazing character and player, icon of the game, I believe also captain of Team Discraft this year. So really rounding out this feature card nicely. We will kick it off on hole 1.
Hole 1. It's a very nervy starting hole. For some people, if you are missing that big forehand, it plays really well for a big forehand hyzer. The distance of 124 meters is actually playing a little bit shorter since it's slightly downhill. You can see the OB line on the left side, gripping in inside the circle behind the basket. Road on the right, lining the right side OB. Many players playing a little bit safe, short and right on this hole.
A fantastic atmosphere on the course, a clash of continents as the best players from around the world gather in Norway to compete on one of the biggest stages of the year.
From Vetlanda, Sweden, 16 years old last week. From Team Latitude 64 and King. Please welcome to the team Mr. Hjalmar Fredriksson.
Hjalmar after a hot 8 under first round. He was just barely actually missing the lead card. And you can see left-handed player, this first hole suiting him very well. Able to only go with that regular hyzer. But that's a terrible break. Looks like he hits inbounds. Bounces OB though by just a couple centimeters. That's really unfortunate.
Joey here, traveling with Paul Macbeth on his European stretch and creating some great content. Also a very personable guy on and off the course. Great to see him joining us. He's looking to get this power, hyzer forehand. Has a good height. We'll see if he can find the distance. And he is right up there, just at circle's edge, looking downhill towards the OB, but a great shot.
Florida, Team Innova. Please welcome to the TGG, Garrett Gurthie.
Yeah, Joey with a very common place to land. That short right side. Gonna have a scary putt towards the OB. And the slope behind the basket. Let's see if Garrett can throw a beautiful turnover here. I believe going with that rock 3 that he likes to throw on almost a majority of the holes. And once again, a little bit right there. Better to miss on that side than the OB left.
From Rock Hill, South Carolina, Team Discraft and Team Captain. Please welcome to the team Mr. Paul Ulibarri.
We see Paul here has a great command of both the backhand and forehand throws. Really good at hitting his gaps. And very capable of making great lines on the course.
Yeah, Paul has had a bit of a slower season than we are used to seeing from him. So great to see him on this chase card, round 2. And throws a beautiful forehand. Perfect line, I believe just a little bit short. But he has much better of an angle to putt at the green, since he's not looking directly at the downhill slope behind the basket.
We see the passionate Norwegian spectators coming to watch the action. We got Joey up first from just outside the circle. And he is smooth, starting off with a nice birdie there.
That was beautiful, showing that he's not just a cameraman, but rather a great disc golfer as well. Love that putting style. Great putting style for the Norwegian wind that we're actually not having as much of as anticipated for this event.
Paul with a lofty bid there, catches the band. You can see, as you mentioned, did have that lateral putt across the hillside, so was able to give it that confident bid. But Garrett here looking downhill might be a little more tentative, and you see exactly there a result coming up just a bit low. Garrett really predominantly a backhand player, so even on these significantly left to right moving fairways, does like to shape those mid-ranges. Hjalmar with the laser putt from just OB. 2 throws but 3 strokes for him here on hole 1.
One good thing to keep an eye on is Hjalmar's putting. He's one of the stronger putters you're going to see. Very confident and puts a ton of pace on that disc.
That's the Swedish style. We often refer to them as Swedish snipers because they're laser focused and tons of speed.
Swedish sniper is a very good name. As we move on to hole 2, one of the easier holes on the course, only 104 meters and honestly not a lot of stuff on the way. You can see the OB right and the OB left are pretty far away. Really the only thing you have to contend with on this hole are these late branches. So you have to keep your shot relatively low coming into the green. And the pond on the right side is actually not OB, but rather a relief area. So where your disc enters the pond, you're going to continue from there and take your meter.
Do you have to take the relief, or can you step into the pond if you choose to?
You actually have to take the relief. It is same way as OB, but without the stroke.
Interesting. We see Joey off the tee there, throw it just a little bit low, that nose down, not giving it the full flight, but likely a very safe par, as you mentioned. Not too much danger on the fairway of 2. You'll see Hjalmar now.
Yeah, I believe playing a little bit trickier for the lefty, as some of these late branches are more in the way of that lefty hyzer. But a beautiful shot from Hjalmar, going around the last tree on the left side, and he's well in the circle.
Garrett here with a significant hyzer release, getting it up to flat. And it does look like there's a little bit of wind beating up some discs out there. We saw that drop very dramatically and very quickly. Also coming up a little bit short. Paul now.
This is a beautiful looking line here. But just does not get the skip at the end. Very surprising. It's not very tall grass before that basket on that fairway. Looks like Hjalmar is going to be the only player inside the circle on this very simple hole. Although you can see the wind is blowing a little bit more than what we're used to for this weekend.
Yeah, we see Joey with a upshot there. Too far to really give it an honest putt, so just playing for a safe 3. Garrett as well. That wind. This hole 2 really exposed on the hillside coming up from the valley, often being beaten by wind. We'll see if Paul wants to give this a chance. He's got that eye of the tiger right now.
Beautiful green to putt on, and that is in the middle. Look at that smooth stroke.
Something about the way he was holding himself, you could tell that he really wanted to will that one in, and he does just that. A beautiful putt, and his first birdie here on this second round. Hjalmar, there's just an incredibly fast spin putt, really low release and nose down, sneaking it over the cage.
You can see Hjalmar not really utilizing the lower body, pretty much only putting with the arm and the wrist. Still getting incredible speed on the disc. As we see a couple of birdies and a couple of pars. Moving on to hole number 3. Continuing this pretty soft start to the course, it's another hole that you would like to birdie. Only 110 meters, and once again playing slightly downhill. Most players are going for this right side gap that the drone is flying through. You're trying to throw something relatively straight to overstable on that right side gap, hopefully fade down the hill towards the basket. Important to keep the height not too high on this hole, since if you throw it too high, many players are fading to the left. Obviously Hjalmar here having a completely different route.
Going really wide and really high. He's looking to crash into this hillside, and that is an absolute bomb going OB long.
Yeah, the OB long actually comes into play pretty quickly, especially with that right finishing left-handed shot. It is only about 8 meters long off the basket. And Paul there, a little bit inside. Need to hang it out a little bit wider with that right-hand hyzer.
But the width there you see coming into play for Joey, catching the early branches and spitting out, will still be left with some considerable distance and likely obstructed. Given the slope and distance remaining, likely not a simple upshot. We see Garrett going for the high and wide hyzer, the right-handed version, and just trickling his way down the hill. Doesn't quite make it all the way to the basket, and will have to make a decision from circle 2 way downhill if he wants to run that or not. Has not picked up a birdie yet, so I could see with his hyzery putt he might want to give that a chance.
Yeah, you can, from this angle, it's a great look to see how severely sloping the green is here. As we see Joey throwing a really accurate forehand approach there, limiting the damage to only a par.
And Paul doing the exact same. Some smooth forehands there, playing into the hillside. And Garrett, that looks like a bid to me, given the height that he gave it. No reason to put it that high if he's not trying to put it in. And yeah, you see him smile a little bit, check the wind. He'll be left with a short 3. This is Hjalmar for his par save after going long.
Yeah, Hjalmar trying to collect already his second OB par of the round, and another laser putt there, getting over the rim. He's not putting the discs far away from the tee, but finding those OB strokes, something he needs to work on continuing this round. But at least the putt is looking completely dialed.
It's easy to have one or the other. Very rare for a player to have both the throwing and the putting on any given day, and those are the ingredients for greatness on the disc golf course. As we'll see, some short putts now remaining for par. Hole 3 actually averaged 2.77. Significant birdie percentage with over a third of the field. It's one of the more attackable holes, although not without its danger. If you can navigate the slope, you'll often find yourself quite all right.
Hole 4, bringing a lot more technicality into play. Another one of these short-ish par 3s, only 105 meters. You can see the OB line lining the whole right side of the fairway. Want to keep our disc away from turning to the right, unless you want to find that OB stroke. Very low ceiling at the end. It's really a straight shot with either a fast thrown mid-range or a soft thrown fairway driver. Many players trying to land well before the basket and take a bit of a skip. Hopefully it'll land inside the circle after that skip.
Hjalmar pushing this one straight and a little bit high will once again find OB, and that will be a very difficult par putt to save from, given his distance remaining to the green. Paul relying on a little bit more understability and the hyzer release as we see him punch straight through the gap and actually fire long, although a very nice line, just a little bit too much pace on that.
Really using all of the ceiling he had there. Most often you see players going low, but Joey also going for the higher shot. Actually fighting through the branches pretty well, and I believe he's also has a circle 2 look.
Garrett trusting his rock here, flipping this one up to flat, and you see the adjustment on the height, buttery smooth up to the basket, and that is so purely parked. Really nice shot, and just exactly how you want to be playing hole 4. You can see that that height brings any fade or turn out of play, really keeping it so low to the ground.
Hjalmar, take a look at this. He's actually going for the right hand forehand shot. So he's throwing left hand backhand and right hand forehand. And he does not throw any left hand forehands. So only having those right finishing shot shapes. He's back edge of circle there. Very makeable putt for him for the bogey.
Joey with another great putt. Tons of spin and just on the way between the band and the cage the entire path of the flight. Really nice as he picks up another 2 from a lengthy putt there. Looks around a little bit confused almost by how good that was.
Did you see that? I believe Joey actually doing a big gentleman move and marking Double G's disc for him. Uli there. Pretty conservative run. It's a bit of a sloping green once again. You can see he was a little bit tempted to go full power at it.
And pretty much a best case scenario for Hjalmar after the early OB playing for 4 at that point. The par was pretty much unsalvageable. So not a bad result considering the tee shot. Paul with an easy par there, and Garrett now to tap in with the friendly mark. And a bit of discussion and camaraderie there.
Hole number 5. Another very technical short hole. 99 meters. Initially you have to hit this relatively small gap with either a fairway driver or a stable mid-range. Hopefully keep your shot as close to that low ceiling as possible, because you want to get over this next obstacle, which is a pond, OB pond before the basket. Very important to keep your shot high, as I said, to get over that pond. Hopefully fade a little bit more left than turning right. If you go into that pond, you have to go to a drop zone that is about 15 meters away from the basket.
Yeah, Joey sneaking through the early left gap, not actually going around that last tree in the tunnel, breaking through. He'll be left with a long look. And you really hit the nail on the head. You have to push that low ceiling to beat the high floor. And Garrett has done just that with a beautiful, touchy execution, flying just past the basket, chain high. A really nice shot. He's throwing the disc very well right now.
Yeah, and able to utilize the same disc almost on every hole. It's very good to see a player getting into touch with that favorite disc. And Paul there had a beautiful looking shape, just pulled it to the right. He's gonna have to approach for the par. This is another hole that you would like to get the birdie on. It's not very difficult, it's a very natural shape.
Hjalmar, super smooth as well. Really fun to watch him here because with this right to left moving fairway, as you mentioned, he's playing a left-handed back and a right-handed forehand, both of them finishing to the right, but you see his display of the angle control. This is Paul looking to get himself close now, catching some branches on the way. Will be left circle 2 for a par save. Joey also quite far from the pin, but he's been good for it so far.
It's a pretty risky green in a way that if you hit the basket but don't stay in, your chance of rolling into the pond are very high. You can see that slope going right towards the edge of the OB line of that pond. Paul here for a par save. Really important. Don't want to take a bogey on this short, simple hole, and he makes it. Great putt. His putting motion is also looking pretty solid right now.
Yeah, really dialed. He's shared with some people that he's really working on his game, and you mentioned the slow start he's had to this season, has really prioritized working on his form, his mental aspect of competing, and you see the results here as he's battled his way to chase card in an incredibly strong field. And a solid putt there. This is Garrett now putting towards the water, although a very manageable distance. And confident putt, but a little bit too confident there. Gives it too much height for that short 5 or 6 meters.
Yeah, that looked a little bit more powerful than what we usually see from Double G. Maybe adjusting for that small bit of wind. Hjalmar with a great birdie. Even though this hole is pretty easy for the right-handed players, it is not short of insanely difficult for the left-handed player. Just to get that shape and to be able to land the disc flat without cut rolling into the water is very impressive. So good job by Hjalmar. Hole number 6. One of the most famous holes in all of European disc golf scene. The gates of Valhalla. You're throwing through in between these two Viking swords that form the triple Mando. If you miss the Mando, you have to proceed to the drop zone on either the left or right side of the Mando. Many players are trying to land their disc well short of the basket, at least 10 to 15 meters before, and hopefully take that small slide or skip up to the pin.
The nose angle really important here. Hjalmar with a bit of a misfire, going to that right-handed forehand and fading really early. He kicks back to the middle before the Mando. Joey here punching one through, but with a lot of speed. A fortunate rock as a backstop. He'll be left inside the circle putting for birdie. A great angle here of the height they're throwing from.
Yeah, that small fence at the front of the tee pad is maybe something that some players are thinking about. Not trying to hit their hand on the follow through to that fence. This looks like a beautiful shot from Double G. Perfectly landing it before the basket, taking that small slide, and he's absolutely parked.
So straight. That was an incredibly straight flight the whole way. It's lovely to watch a player who has such a good command and knowledge of one specific disc. We see Paul here going for that chop Anheuser forehand with a very stable disc flattening out and getting that friendly ground play through the triple Mando. A pretty good shot, comes up a touch short, but that's most often better than long. And
Looks
Hjalmar
like
just pitching up.
Yeah, Hjalmar actually had a really good kick. He was going way right off the fairway, even risking missing the Mando, but got a good kick off the tree. Gonna have a stress-free par. Let's see if Yuli can keep that great putting stroke up. And not quite. A little bit more conservative from circle 2, as we see there. More of a floaty bit compared to the direct flat putt from circle 1.
Joey bringing it back after a pretty solid start here, birdieing half of the holes so far on hole 6. He is 3 down and really solid on the putting green and getting his throws up there, giving himself a chance. Garrett there also with the absolute tap in. Could not be any easier. That was a great display of how to play this hole, landing it flat before the basket and sliding on up. Paul looking to just bring back a soft 3.
These first holes on the course are the stretch that you really want to score on. I believe everything up until hole 7 or even hole 8 are holes that you really want to get those birdies on.
The J, it's kind of like a companion disc to the Rock, not quite as overstable. So it's more point and shoot than the Rock is, but it's still got really good torque resistance and it plays really well in the wind, and you can throw it side on.
Hole 7, par for 204 meters. This is really the first chance for these players to really open up and throw big shots. Off the tee, you're trying to throw towards these right side trees and hopefully fade just before them. Ideally landing somewhere near this gap. Ideally more left is better since it opens up the angle for this small gap. If you hit the perfect spot, you only have about a 50 or 60 meter approach. Most players going with just a pitch forehand. Really anywhere you are on this hole, you still have a chance to go to the basket with some sort of a over the tree shot. It's really important here, just stay in bounds, avoid that right side and that left side OB.
Oh, but speaking of right side OB, Joey flips that one up to flat and even turns it over as he does not get the leftwards fade required. He'll be OB from a very pinched position relative to the mouth of the tunnel. Garrett here, in comparison, getting a lot more hyzer, and in fact, never quite getting to flat, has a long fighting hyzer angle the entire way, and looks like he's in a pretty solid spot, although on the right of the fairway, we'll have more trees to contend with if you need to go over.
And Hjalmar has to shape a shot here. This looks like a really good shape. Needs to come back though a little bit. He has hit some of the trees on the middle part of the fairway, and that's a position where he either might have nothing or he might have to go over the trees if he wants to reach the basket with a second.
A really nice shot from Paul here as well, getting it briefly up to flat and then a reliable overstable finish leftwards. Always interesting to see the height players throw with here. You can really go anywhere from a high, more spiky hyzer to a low penetrating shot with a very overstable disc. This will be Joey just looking to position himself at the mouth now to attack the green on his next shot. And pretty comfortable with that forehand hyzer approach disc.
Yeah, really, that's the best you could do from there. Unless you're feeling super aggressive, most players from that position wouldn't go over the trees. Talking about over the trees, that's exactly what Hjalmar is doing. Has a great angle to go over. He has faded out a little bit early to the right, but still well within putting distance, and has cleared the OB pond between the gap and the basket, so all good for him.
Paul's got the driver in his hand here. He's really close to the tree line, having to throw a spike forehand hyzer. Battles his way just to the side of the pond and will be left with a long look. That's a good spot to be from a pretty compromised position, considering he attacked it still. And this is Joey from his pitch up. That was his third throw and fourth stroke. He'll be tapping in a bogey there after the initial OB, but otherwise, well played.
Look at that drive from Double G. Almost able to give it a bit of a run for the eagle. Showing off that huge power he has off the tee, making this long par 4 look pretty easy. And wow, great putt. Finally getting that circle 2 putt to drop. He has been very solid from inside the circle, but has missed a couple from circle 2.
Let's take another look at that Ulibarri patented putting form. Gives it a sort of high release, nose up, tons of spin. Love the kick of the back leg. Crashing chains. Smooth. You see the emotion there, the fist bump. That one means a lot to him. After a string of pars, he is no longer Paul Ulibarri.
Had to hide my laugh there. Sorry, Connor. Keep it professional. So, Hjalmar here, just outside the circle. Another beautiful. Look at how he just stabs the putt into the middle. Really, the putt is saving him right now, not driving the disc incredibly well, but has already made plenty of great putts. Joey there, unfortunate bogey, but that's really the best he could do from his drive. Going OB right off the drive is really kind of the worst mistake to do on that hole. Let's hope Joey can get over it. Hole 8, we're entering the woods for a couple of holes. It's a bit of a shorter par 4 here, 160 meters. Off the first shot you're trying to throw something straight. Right here where these players, actually myself, is standing, that's a perfect spot to land. You have to throw about 100 meters or 105 meters off the tee, leaving you with just a short 60 meter approach. Watch out for that OB on the right side though. You want to throw something pretty low towards that right side OB and hopefully skip before it. Land edge of the circle and skip your way under the basket. One of the faster greens on the course with a lot of wood chips and that elevated basket.
And also one of the shortest par 4s you might see on either the Disc Golf Pro Tour or the PDGA Euro Tour. Hjalmar has absolutely smoked this one down the fairway. That is a really nice drive and he is very well positioned. Might even have a long look for the eagle.
That was an incredible drive. I believe he only has about 35 meters to the basket. Yuli trying to find a similar shape with that right hand forehand. Turns it over early though. And that is pretty much killing his chances of getting a birdie. Unless he feels super aggressive and wants to go over some of the low trees on the left side of the fairway.
Garrett looking to play the right-handed backhand turnover, but getting that only to straight. Doesn't quite get it to drift right, although a very fine position to still play for birdie. And Joey as well, firing that straight shot off, has not quite beat that last bend of the fairway, but a fine position regardless. And we'll have Paul up first. He's kept himself in the open.
And he's looking
a lot
high.
of distance remaining.
Trying to possibly crash over some of those low trees on that left side, as we said. Believe he has come up significantly short there, but should be no more than 40 meters left to the basket. And Joey here just has to pitch up around the corner. Pretty much lands next to Hjalmar's drive there with his second shot. Should be a pretty routine approach.
Yeah, not much distance required, but a very specific shape and line to work your way to the green. This is Garrett now, looking to play the overstable hyzer skip, but bringing it really wide. He fires over that OB rock line and takes a little bit of an unforced error on what was not a huge shot required. Hjalmar so far up on the drive, that's all he's left with. Oh, apologies, Joey there, rather, as this is Hjalmar from an ideal position. And just look how effortless that upshot is for him.
Yeah,
that's how you play this hole.
Once again going for that right-hand forehand. You can see Hjalmar most often using that right-hand forehand for those shorter, touchier approaches. He's got really good control over the angle and speed with the right-hand forehand. We saw Paul also approaching next to the basket, and let's see Garrett with a bit of a run there. Pretty conservative though with that elevated basket, and he's only gonna have a short putt left to collect a bogey.
As we'll see our tap-ins now. Hjalmar taking the birdie, Joey and Paul the par. This is Garrett, I believe, for bogey after that OB on the right side. Hole 8, a hole that averaged 3.98, just sneaking its way under par. 53% of the field taking that par, so a 4 is just fine, although these guys are pushing that podium pace. Let's see how they play hole 9.
Hole 9, another one of these shorter technical par 3s. 104 meters, playing a little bit longer than that, with a slight uphill grade of the fairway. Have this early gap about 30 meters off the tee. That is just tight enough that you have to think about it. You want to throw something straight, and for the last 30 meters of the fairway you want to take a slight turn to the right. Many players are trying to throw a low, flat forehand that fades to the right at the end. Or also you can throw pretty much just a straight mid-range that tails off to the right at the end.
Snappy release for Hjalmar there. Gets it turned over a touch early, and he kicks out the left side, a very unideal position, although he's shown to have a very strong scramble game, and still a young man, really likes to attack everything. Not to say he's unwise in his decision making, but still a very aggressive player. We see Paul getting that low pushing forehand you mentioned and a soft fade towards the right. He has snuck his way up to a putt.
Yeah, very common result being a little bit short on this hole. I don't know if it's the slight tightening of the gap higher up in the air or what, but people seem to be landing a little bit short on this hole every time, keeping their shots very low. As we saw, a low shot from Joey. A little bit too far right though, not really hitting that fairway. As we said, the gap is, you know, it's not the tightest gap on the course, by no means. And it's not like very tight, but it's something you have to consider. And if it gets inside your head, it's very easy to miss.
I think due to that very late turn to the right, really demanding a specific shape shown to you right there by Garrett Gurthie with that soft mid-range turnover. And fortunate for Hjalmar here, actually has a wide open gap to try and approach the green. I think a routine upshot for him now.
Yep, pretty well thrown there. Gonna have another one of those backside of circle 1 putts that he has already made plenty of, so should be no problem. Joey also tailing off to the left. Gonna have a longer par putt. Both Hjalmar and Joey gonna have longer par putts than they would like. Let's see if Paul can make another circle 2 here.
Cashes it. Really nice. Hole 9. Hard hole to bogey, but a difficult hole to birdie. Paul sneaks his way into that and closes out a clean front 9, bogey free. Has thrown good shots when he's needed to and has made some great putts. We take another look at that here from the reverse angle.
Very clean. Perfect speed control there. And 3 under, clean front 9, as you said. It's not particularly hot for being a front 9 score, as the front 9 is certainly more scoreable than the back 9. But there's nothing wrong with being 3 under, and there's plenty of birdie chances all over the course. Although after this hole, what is starting is the most difficult stretch. So it's really the last chance to get an easy-ish, or at least an easy-ish birdie compared to the upcoming holes. As we see a great par putt there from Joey.
This will be Hjalmar for par as well. Currently sitting at 3 under with 4 birdies and 1 bogey. This is to retain his 11 under position on the scoreboard. Laser, as always, straight to the chins. No fuss about that putt.
Hjalmar gaining a lot of strokes with his C1X putt right now. Feels like on almost every hole he has made a putt from around 7 to 10 meters. Double G here for the birdie after a beautiful drive. Of course he makes it. And Double G really Once again, throwing the same disc, you can really get to good control with a single disc. As we finish out the front 9.
Wow, you take a look at the top 10 standings. Jane Proctor in the solo lead position, going 5 under through the front 9 and 14 under total. Tied in second, Paul, Calvin and Eagle. Tied in fifth, Hjalmar, Adam Hammes, Aaron Gossage, Matt Bell. An incredibly tight battle across a stacked field. The excitement is only increasing as we've reached the halfway point of this tournament. We have a round and a half remaining. Make sure to catch us on that back 9. Thank you for joining us here. You can like, subscribe, and make sure to check out the Patreon if you want to support European disc golf coverage. It means a lot to us, and it helps to support all of these projects from across the world. Elias, it was an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you guys on the back 9.